The day North Spire started layoffs, Vanessa held my face in both hands while I cried and told me, "I swear I'd never let them destroy you." Everyone in the office watched her comfort me like she actually cared. But that same night, I opened a leaked executive thread and found dozens of messages proving she'd spent months feeding management my private breakdowns, panic attacks, and personal secrets to make sure I was the one who got fired instead of her. 3 months before I got fired, I genuinely thought Vanessa Mercer was the closest friend I had in Denver. Not just at work, in general. At North Spire Consulting Group, everybody was exhausted, paranoid, and quietly competing with each other behind fake smiles and team culture speeches. But Vanessa felt different. She made 12-hour workdays feel survivable. We had the same sarcastic sense of humor, the same caffeine addiction, the same habit of staying online way too late fixing disasters executives created and blamed on us the next morning. Most mornings started the exact same way. I'd walk into the 23rd floor half awake, and Vanessa would already be sitting cross-legged in her chair with an iced coffee and some passive-aggressive comment about leadership waiting for me. "Dalton scheduled another transparency meeting," she muttered one Tuesday morning. "Which probably means somebody's about to lose their health care." I laughed harder than I should have. That was the thing about her. She knew how to make toxic situations feel manageable, especially when the layoffs started creeping closer. At first, it was small things. Random departments losing people overnight. Slack accounts disappearing before lunch. Managers suddenly refusing to discuss long-term projects. HR representatives showing up in meetings they had no reason to attend. Everybody noticed it. Nobody wanted to say it out loud. North Spire loved calling itself a family. Giant posters in the lobby literally said "People First" in bold blue letters. But the second quarterly profits dipped. Leadership turned the building into a pressure cooker. Executives stopped making eye contact in elevators. Managers started documenting every tiny mistake. People who'd worked there for 10 years suddenly sounded nervous during normal conversations, like one wrong sentence could end their career. And honestly, that fear made people weird. Coworkers became colder. Information stopped flowing naturally. Meetings felt tense in ways I couldn't explain yet. Every compliment sounded fake. Every silence felt loaded. Except with Vanessa. If anything, we got closer during all of it. She started staying later with me after work, while we finished operational reports nobody appreciated. We'd sit in the empty office, surrounded by dim lights and untouched snack trays, while downtown Denver glowed outside the windows. Sometimes we talked more about life than work. She knew about my divorce. She knew how badly the legal bills wrecked my savings. She knew I'd been having panic attacks before presentations ever since Dalton Pierce humiliated me during a leadership review 6 months earlier. I never told most people that stuff, but Vanessa had this way of making vulnerability feel safe. One night around 11, while we were fixing another executive forecasting mess, she looked over at me and said quietly, "You know you're one of the only genuinely decent people left in this company, right?" I still remember how hard that hit me, because I needed to hear it. North Spire had a way of making good employees feel worthless, especially Dalton. Dalton Pierce was the kind of executive who smiled while destroying people. Perfect suits, calm voice, expensive watch. The type of corporate leader who used words like realignment and resource optimization while people silently panicked about mortgages and medical insurance. Vanessa hated him openly. Or at least I thought she did. Every time he publicly criticized me during meetings, she defended me afterward. Every time leadership dumped impossible deadlines on our department, she stayed late helping me finish them. When rumors spread that another restructuring wave was coming, she even squeezed my shoulder one afternoon and said, "If they touch your position, I'm walking out with you." That sentence stayed in my head for weeks, because I believed her. Looking back now, that's the part that makes me feel the stupidest. Not trusting her, needing her. It started with small inconsistencies, things I almost ignored because I didn't want to think too much about them. A report I had clearly submitted somehow never reached the leadership dashboard. A Slack thread I was part of suddenly showed access restricted. A project update I had written was presented in a meeting, but my name was missing from the credits entirely. At first I blamed system errors. Northspire's internal tools were always messy. Nothing ever worked the way it should, but then the patterns started forming. Every time something went wrong, Vanessa was oddly calm about it. Too calm, like she already knew how it would play out. One afternoon, I walked past a conference room and saw Dalton Pierce inside with HR Director Celeste Vaughn. The blinds were half closed, but I clearly saw my name on a printed sheet on the table between them. The moment I stopped, Vanessa appeared beside me like she had been waiting. "You're overthinking," she said quickly, forcing a light smile. "They're just doing routine performance reviews." But her hand on my arm felt tight, almost controlling. That same week, I got invited to a quick alignment meeting that Vanessa was not part of. When I walked in, the room went quiet for half a second too long, like they were expecting me. Dalton didn't even look up from his tablet. "Grayson Hale," he said flatly, "take a seat." The meeting lasted less than 10 minutes. They didn't ask questions. They didn't discuss improvement plans. They just listed vague terms like cultural misalignment, performance inconsistency, and organizational restructuring impact. It felt rehearsed, pre-decided. When I walked out, my legs felt disconnected from my body. Vanessa was waiting outside, and before I could even speak, she hugged me. Right there in the hallway. One arm around my back, the other pressing my head lightly against her shoulder, like she was holding something fragile. "I've got you," she whispered. "Whatever happens, we're in this together, okay?" I didn't even respond. Because I couldn't. My throat was locked. People were watching us from desks, but she didn't let go immediately. She held that moment just long enough for it to feel real, like she was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. Later that day, the official email came. Position eliminated. Effective immediately. No warning, no severance discussion. Just a corporate goodbye, wrapped in polite language. Vanessa texted me almost instantly. "I'm so sorry. I'm here if you need anything. Don't disappear on me." That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the same message for almost an hour. Because something about it didn't feel comforting anymore. It felt rehearsed. Like she had already practiced what to say. Like she knew this moment was coming long before I did. And that's when I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I logged into my old backup credentials for Northspire's internal archive system, just to check if my access was fully cut. What I found wasn't supposed to be visible, a hidden executive Slack export thread. And my name was in it, hundreds of times. At first I couldn't even process what I was looking at. The Slack export wasn't just random messages. It was structured, organized, almost like a case file built against me. My name kept appearing between executive comments, performance notes, and private risk assessments. And then I saw her name, Vanessa Mercer. At first I thought it had to be a mistake, some coincidence, some other context I didn't understand. But the deeper I scrolled, the worse it got. She wasn't just mentioned. She was active in it. Not once, not twice. Dozens of messages, small updates at first. Grayson missed another internal deadline, attaching logs. Then sharper ones. "He's becoming emotionally unstable under pressure. Might not be suitable for leadership-facing roles." And then the ones that made my stomach drop. "He's struggling with panic episodes during presentations. I recommend we phase him out before Q3 review." I physically stood up from my chair without realizing it. My hands were shaking. Because those panic episodes she was referring to, she knew about them. I told her about them. Late nights in the office. Quiet conversations when nobody else was around. She had listened, nodded, told me I wasn't weak for it. And now I was reading her turning that same vulnerability into ammunition. I kept scrolling like an idiot who couldn't accept reality yet. There were more layers. She had been in meetings I wasn't invited to. She had reviewed internal notes about me before I even knew I was under evaluation. At one point she had written, "Recommend prioritizing Grayson for upcoming layoffs due to low adaptability during restructuring phase." I felt something shift inside me. Not just anger. Something colder, heavier. Like my trust wasn't just broken, it had been used as a tool. I tried calling her, no answer. Again. Nothing. Then she finally texted back. "Hey, I saw your termination email. I'm really sorry. Are you okay?" That message. That fake softness. It didn't feel human anymore. It felt like performance. Like she was still playing a role she had already rehearsed. I sat there for a long time staring at my phone, reading and rereading those words, trying to match them with the person I thought I knew. And I couldn't. Because every memory started changing shape in my mind. Every late-night conversation. Every reassuring smile. Every time she said, "I've got you." It all felt contaminated now. But the worst part wasn't even the betrayal yet. It was the realization forming slowly in my head that this wasn't impulsive. It wasn't emotional. It was planned. And I wasn't the only one she had done this to. Because one name kept appearing in those threads before mine ever did. Nolan Reeves. And whatever happened to him was the same pattern, just earlier and cleaner. The first night after reading everything, I didn't sleep. I just sat in my apartment with the lights off, replaying every interaction with Vanessa like a crime scene. Every smile felt staged now. Every reassurance sounded rehearsed in my head. But anger alone doesn't build a case in a company like Northspire. It gets you labeled as unstable, just like she already tried to do. So I stopped reacting and started collecting. The next morning, I logged in like nothing had happened. I even replied to Vanessa's message with a simple, "Yeah, just processing everything, thanks." I needed her to believe I was still the same broken, confused employee she helped create in those executive notes. Because the moment she suspected I knew the truth, she would clean it up. I went straight into silent extraction mode. Old project folders, archived Slack backups, email metadata, even shared drive revision histories that most employees never bothered checking. And slowly, patterns started forming outside of her messages too. Every time a restructuring decision was made, Vanessa was somehow near the communication chain. Not officially in leadership meetings, but always looped in early. Like she had a second layer of access nobody questioned. Then I found something bigger. A compliance mismatch in performance review timestamps. My risk escalation report had been submitted internally, but the approval trail showed it was edited before it ever reached HR. Someone had rewritten parts of my evaluation after submission, and the digital signature trail pointed in one direction. Celeste Vaughn, HR Director. Which meant this wasn't just Vanessa acting alone. This was coordinated. That realization changed everything. Because now this wasn't personal betrayal. It was a system. And systems have weak points. I reached out carefully to people who had already left Northspire. Former analysts. A project coordinator who got quietly pushed out last year. Nobody wanted to talk at first. But when I mentioned Vanessa's name, the silence changed. One of them finally said, "She does this in cycles." That's all he said at first. Then he added, "You weren't the first, and you won't be the last unless someone documents it properly." That was the first time I felt something other than rage, control. I started building a timeline, screenshots, email exports, internal policy violations, patterns of employee terminations aligned with Vanessa's involvement in restructuring support tasks. And then I found Nolan Reeves. His file was almost erased, but not completely. And what I found there made my stomach tighten again. Because everything that happened to me had already happened to him. Same emotional bonding phase. Same supportive coworker. Same sudden performance decline flagged by internal notes. Same disappearance from the company without a real explanation. And Vanessa's name was attached every step of the way. Now I wasn't just trying to understand what she did. I was preparing for something else. Because one thing was becoming clear. She didn't just survive layoffs. She engineered them. And I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I was going to make sure that when everything came down, she couldn't rewrite the story again. I was halfway through organizing the evidence when an unknown number appeared on my phone. I almost ignored it, but something told me not to. "Grayson Hale?" a low voice said the moment I answered. "I don't have much time," he continued. "My name doesn't matter. I'm calling from inside Northspire leadership." My entire body went still, because that wasn't a scam tone. That was fear. He didn't waste time. I know what you think you've found, he said, and you're not wrong. But you're also not seeing the full picture. I didn't speak, I just listened. Vanessa isn't operating alone, he continued. She's been useful, extremely useful. She identifies employees who are already flagged internally, then accelerates the documentation process. My jaw tightened. So she's just HR's cleaner? I asked. A pause. No, he said. She's more than that. She has direct influence over restructuring discussions. Informal influence through Dalton Pierce. That name hit harder than I expected. Because Dalton wasn't just an executive, he was the system. The voice lowered even further. And there's something else you need to understand, he added. Your termination wasn't just about performance. My grip tightened around the phone. It was about timing. Then he dropped it. There's an internal audit coming next quarter. External regulators. And your department had exposure risk. Vanessa was used to remove liabilities before the review. My mind struggled to keep up. So I wasn't targeted because I was weak, I said slowly. No, he replied. You were targeted because you were visible. Then he said the part that made everything feel colder. She didn't just sacrifice you. She needed you to be the example. The call ended immediately after that. No goodbye, no explanation, just silence. I sat there staring at my screen, trying to connect everything. Vanessa's support, the emotional bonding, the fake reassurance during layoffs, the timing of my termination. It wasn't random cruelty. It was structured, strategic. And then I noticed something I had missed before in Nolan Reeves' file. A footnote. One internal comment from Dalton Pierce himself. Mercer's restructuring method is effective. Continue utilization. My chest felt tight, because that wasn't just approval. That was endorsement. And suddenly, the story shifted again. Vanessa wasn't just protecting herself. She wasn't just climbing. She was operating with executive permission. But before I could process that fully, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was her. Hey, we need to talk. I think you might have seen something you shouldn't have. And for the first time, her message didn't feel like control. It felt like panic. I didn't reply to Vanessa's message right away. Instead, I sat there watching it light up my screen like a warning sign. For months, she controlled every emotional reaction I had. Every reassurance, every hug, every "we're in this together" moment, all carefully placed. But now, she was the one waiting. That alone told me everything was shifting. I finally typed back. You're right, we should talk. No emotion, no anger, just calm. And that scared her more than anything else I could have said. The meeting was scheduled for the next morning. Off-site, a private glass conference room booked under consulting discussion near downtown Denver. Classic North Spire style. Clean surface, dirty intent underneath. When I arrived, Vanessa was already there, and for the first time since everything started, she didn't look composed. Her hair wasn't perfectly set. Her posture was tight. Her eyes kept checking the door like she expected someone else to walk in at any second. Grayson, she started, forcing a small smile. I know this has been overwhelming. I raised my hand slightly, not aggressive, just enough to stop her. I read everything, I said. Silence hit instantly. Her face didn't change at first, just a slow blink, like her brain was trying to decide which version of reality still applied. I don't know what you think you saw, she said carefully. That's when I placed the folder on the table. Printed logs, Slack exports, email timestamps, Nolan Reeves' case file, the HR edits, the approval trail manipulation, all of it, neatly organized. Her eyes dropped to it and stayed there. For the first time, she didn't talk. Not immediately. And that was worse than denial, because she knew. I tried to protect you, she finally said, softer now. That line almost made me laugh. Protect me? From what? The system she was actively running? No, I said quietly. You protected yourself, and I was just the easiest one to remove. Her breathing changed. Faster now. Controlled panic breaking through her corporate mask. You don't understand how this company works, she said quickly. If this goes higher, it won't just hurt me. That's the point, I interrupted. The room went dead silent again. and then her phone buzzed. She looked down. Her face went pale because on the screen was an internal notification. Emergency compliance review initiated. She looked up at me instantly. "You did this?" I didn't answer. Because I didn't need to. For the first time, Vanessa Mercer wasn't in control of the narrative. And outside the glass room, I could already see executives walking toward us. Fast. It didn't explode the way I expected. No dramatic shouting match. No cinematic breakdown in the middle of the office. Northspire didn't work like that. It collapsed quietly. Within 48 hours of the compliance review starting, internal investigators locked down emails, Slack histories, and restructuring records tied to Dalton Pierce's team. HR stopped answering direct questions. Executives started canceling meetings they had personally scheduled. And Vanessa disappeared from the internal system first. Her access was revoked before she even officially resigned. But what stayed with me wasn't the chaos, it was the silence afterward. A week later, I walked past Northspire's building again. Same glass lobby, same people first slogan on the wall. It looked exactly the same. But nothing inside it was alive anymore. Not for me. I didn't feel victorious. Not immediately. Just empty, like I had been carrying something heavy for so long that my body didn't know what to do without it anymore. Trevor Maddox, the former compliance guy I had contacted, texted me a few days later. "They're cleaning house quietly. You weren't the only case, but you were the one that triggered the audit." That line stayed in my head longer than I expected, not because it made me special, but because it confirmed something worse. There were more people like me, a lot more. I started hearing small things through industry contacts over time. Vanessa's name wasn't spoken directly in corporate circles anymore, just vague references. "Don't trust Mercer-type restructuring consultants," or "watch out for internal influence coordinators." That's how companies bury people like her. Not with punishment, with silence. I eventually got another job in a different firm. Smaller, calmer, almost boring in comparison. And for the first time in a long while, boring felt safe. But some nights, I still think about that hallway moment. Her arms around me, her voice saying, "We're in this together." Because the worst part isn't that she betrayed me. It's that, for a moment, I truly believed I wasn't alone. People always assume betrayal looks loud, like shouting, arguments, obvious enemies. But what I learned at Northspire is something different. The most dangerous betrayals don't feel like betrayal at all while they're happening. They feel like support, like loyalty, like someone standing next to you when everything is falling apart. Vanessa never looked like a villain, not once. She looked like the only person who cared when the system started pushing me out. And that's what makes it hard to explain now. Because if you weren't there, you'd think I misunderstood everything. But I didn't. I lived it. Sometimes I still replay that moment in my head. The hallway, the layoffs, her arms around me, her voice steady while mine was breaking. Because in that exact moment, I thought I was being saved. When in reality, I was already being replaced. And maybe that's the part people don't talk about enough in corporate worlds like Northspire. You don't always get destroyed by enemies you see coming. Sometimes, it's the person standing closest to you when you fall.